How does the process work with my car accident case? Now, before I give the full-on detailed process of how all of this would work for your car accident case, I want to simplify this so that if you want the short form of this, you can have that, but if you want more detailed, you can continue watching. So the first thing is that we validate whether you have a case or not. The other person's at fault, there's available insurance, and you have damages. Okay, check. Then you go through the medical treatment process. We get the insurance company to accept responsibility for your accident. You can get your property damage handled without any issues most of the time. And then you go through the medical treatment process. Don't know how long that's going to take. It's different for everyone. The third thing is that we would request all of the medical records and bills for your case. Make sure that all the records and bills are in proper order. The next thing is that we would prepare a demand. A demand letter is basically a summary of your case. It could be anywhere from 10 pages to 500 pages. Just depends on how much detail the law firm wants to put in your demand letter. Once the demand letter is finished, it's sent to the insurance company. Then the insurance company sends back their first offer and negotiations begin. The hope is that you could come to an offer that everybody is happy with, specifically the client, and then you would go to the next step of reducing all of the medical bills to try to put as much money as you possibly can into the client's pocket. Once all of that is done, then you would go to the last step of getting the checks in, cutting a check specifically for the client, and then that would be the end of the process. Now, you can continue to keep watching because there are details that you should know in between each one of those steps. Okay, here we go. Before I go into anything, you could go to our website, texascaraccidents.com, and answer 5 questions to see if you have a case, and one of our friendly experts in simplifying Texas car accidents will be there for you. Okay, let's talk about this. How does the process work in a Texas car accident case? From A to Z, I'm going to give you the full-on detail, different scenarios of cases to try to give you as much information as I can of how the process would work for your specific case. So as you've seen in some of our other videos, the primary thing that we first need to do is validate whether they even have a case or not. So number one, were they not at fault for the accident? You know, someone else is responsible for the accident. It can be proven. And then the second part is there available auto insurance to cover their claim? So whether the person who caused the accident has auto insurance or the person that was in the accident victim, has protection against uninsured drivers to protect them when another person causes an accident that doesn't have insurance. Then the third thing is there damages? Property damage or injury damages? Those are the 2 different types of claims that people can file typically in a car accident type of case. Once all of that has been validated that someone else is at fault for the accident and there's available insurance to go after, and then there's damages like injury damages or property damage, then we can talk to them about what the process would look like. So I'm going to talk to you guys from the position of that this is a new client and they would like us to move forward with the case, and I will break down for them now what are the next steps that we will take and then the length of how the process will go from A to Z. Okay, so if you want to move forward, we make it as easy as possible. Basically, I would just get an intake done from you, who the insurance company is, what injuries you're complaining of, how the accident happened, if you have any photos, your ID. We'll do a general intake, and then I could send out a contract to your email. It's an electronic signature. That way, it's very easy to just click and sign and send it back to us. Of course, if you want to come into our office and meet with someone personally, you could always do that, but we try to provide this option to make it as quick as possible so that you can get the contract signed, and then we could begin representing you in the case. Once we have the contract back, the next step that we do is twofold. One, we notify the insurance company to let them know that we're going to be representing this person in their injury claim. That way, the insurance company needs to contact us going forward to ask any questions related to their injury case. If they want to talk about the property damage, we're always here to help. But most of the time, I have our clients handle their own property damage and only get involved if there's an issue. The second part of that is that we would set them up with medical treatment for their car accident injuries. Now, some people come in without having any medical treatment at all, so this will be their first visit of any kind of treatment. So other people may have went to the hospital, or maybe they went to their primary care doctor, or maybe they are already treating along the way for months now with chiro and MD and MRIs. We don't really know how much treatment they've received until we ask them. But most of the time it's like, oh, I've just went to the hospital, or no, I haven't received any treatment yet. So there's something called a letter of protection in Texas. And other states use this as well. But this is an agreement between the law firm and the doctor that the doctor agrees to get paid out of the settlement. So the law firm can contact one of these doctors that work through the car accident industry through letter of protection, and the doctors will treat those accident victims for their injuries and then get paid down the road. So those are the first two steps. Notify the insurance company, set them up with medical treatment so that they could start the process of developing their medical case. Okay? When we contact the insurance company, we want to confirm that liability has been accepted. They're agreeing, yep, we're at fault and we're going to pay a settlement here. Okay, great. Once that's established, there isn't a lot that has to happen with the insurance company until the medical development part of things is complete. So the accident victim will go through that medical development process. Very common. They'll start off with a chiropractor, and the chiropractor will set them up for like 3 to 4 weeks at 3 to 4 times a week. Sometimes a little bit different, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 times a week. But they'll do like that general chiro type of treatment to see if this is enough to get them back to where they were and they're good and they could just close everything out. If the chiro isn't enough, the next step usually is they will set them up with MRIs so that we can have a more clear look at if there's any herniations, if there's any tears, if there's any ligament damage, if there's any herniations that are impinging on the nerve roots themselves. The MRIs will bring a lot more clarity to what the injuries are, whereas if they went to the hospital, a CT scan or an X-ray may not show the full picture of what has affected them in this accident. It's common as well that sometimes people will get chiro and MD treatment at the same time. An MD will be there to like prescribe medication as they're going through the chiro experience. And then if there's like broken bones involved, very often they could start off with an orthopedic doctor that will pretty much be the first doctor involved that can kind of set the plan of treatment in place. But typically it would be chiro and then it would be MRIs. Now, let's say that the MRIs come back and there's nothing there. If there's nothing on the MRIs, then we have to have this conversation with the client where it's like, okay, I know you're still in pain, but your MRIs came back with absolutely nothing. You can continue to treat, but I don't know if the insurance company is going to try to give us a hard time with wanting to pay for additional treatment when they have a full picture of an MRI that shows you don't have any injuries at all based on the MRI. You could absolutely still have pain. And usually there's a grace window to get a little more treatment where we don't have issues. But, so typically if there's no MRI positive findings, the case may come to a close there. But if there is positive findings on an MRI, typically the next step would be to get someone set up with a pain management doctor or an orthopedic doctor, or even sometimes a neuro doctor. Okay, so then the accident victim would then go into the pain management facility or ortho facility or neuro facility, and they would go in with their MRI reports. They often would go in with a CD, and then that doctor would look at the MRI reports, and then they would do some type of plan of treatment. Most of the time, if there's positive findings, that doctor is going to say, continue to go to the chiro, just not as often. Like, you could just go maybe once or twice a week now, just to be doing something to work on these injuries. But the second part of what that doctor will likely refer is ESI injections or trigger point injections. These are a very common thing in the accident industry, and basically they're going to help with alleviating pain, inflammation. They could sometimes help reduce a herniation, but this is basically to help with pain, which is why the doctor's called pain management. So the injections may come in a series of 3. So they may get 1 injection, and then they'll take a little bit of time. They'll go in, they'll follow up with the doctor and say, okay, how do you feel now? Oh, I'm good now. I want to close everything out. Okay, we would close it out then. Or they may go in and say, I'm still in pain. And then the doctor would say, okay, let's do a second injection. And then it would do the same exact thing with the 3rd injection. And then ultimately, it's like, all right, you've had 3 injections now, you've had chiro treatment, you've went to the MD, you're still in pain. The only thing left that could really be done here is that there is a recommended surgical procedure on your case. All right, now, when this kind of thing comes up, you have to look at what are the available policy limits on this case. Because if there's not enough policy limits to pay for all of this medical treatment that we just talked about, and now a surgery, which could easily be 6 figures, the client will unfortunately not be able to go and get a surgery if there's not enough policy limits available, unless they want to go and get that surgery and pay for it themselves, or potentially have health insurance take care of the surgery. That's a common thing where someone may say, okay, there's no policy limits to cover a surgery. The law firm will then do everything possible to settle and get the full policy limits, give as much as they can to the client, and then the client could go to their health insurance and get the surgery and use their part of their settlement to pay for any type of copay. Okay, so that would be, in a nutshell, all of the injury treatment process. Now, the next step would be is the law firm would request all of the medical records and bills. Now, this sometimes takes time depending on which providers are involved. Hospital providers, primary care doctors, specific special hospitals like the VA, they take a long time to get you records and bills. So it's common for the law firm to try to request those in the beginning of the case, knowing that they're going to need them anyway. But sometimes it doesn't happen like that. So you have to request all the medical records and bills, hospitals, like I just mentioned, and then it would be, okay, let's get the chiro records and bills, let's get the MRI records and bills, let's get the orthopedic records and bills, let's get any injection reports, and then any future recommendations. Like if you've reached maximum recovery, but then the doctor is like, well, they've reached maximum improvement, like this is as far as I could take them, but they're going to have all of these future damages. It's important that the doctor documents all of that in the medical records. So the law firm wants to request all of those records and bills, and then the law firm wants to review all of those records and bills to make sure that everything the doctor has said about your case and about your treatment is accurate. Now, most of the time it is. You don't have any issues with that. But every now and then, look, people make mistakes. So you then have to go back and say, look, hey, this is not what the person had said in that appointment. Can you please check that record again? And then they'd go and have to check the record, and they're like, oh, let me edit that. So the law firm's responsibility is to make sure that the records and bills are completely in place and in order. Once that has happened, we put together something called a demand letter. And a demand letter is basically a summary presentation of your car accident case, and it goes from A to Z of how this accident has affected your life, what medical bills you have, what injuries that you have, what future damages do you have, what are your lost joys, like how did it affect you emotionally, how did it affect you mentally, do you have any permanent injuries that will never be fixed? What are your lost wages? Do you have loss of income? Did it strain relationships? All of these things will be highlighted in the demand, and then the law firm will break down what the law says to the insurance company and request that they pay a certain amount of money for their case. Okay, this is about a 200 or 300 page packet because all the records and bills are there, sometimes more, sometimes less. Not all law firms do it the same. I mentioned lost joys before. Sometimes we'll have clients will go, actually most of the time we encourage it, that the clients will go and talk to their friends, their family, their coworkers to see if they could write them a letter about how this accident has affected their life. So we get them to put those letters together, and then we put that in the demand letter as well. We send it out to the insurance company, and then it's like, okay, we've done our part. Now we need to wait to see how the insurance company responds. And typically, the insurance company has 14 days to respond to the demand. The insurance company then responds to the demand, and they say, we read your demand. Here is our offer on this case. Now, once we have the offer in place, we will let the client know, hey, this is what the offer is, but don't look too far into this. They always hit us very low in the first offer. We're going to begin negotiations now. Okay, so now negotiations begin. And if you're a good lawyer, you don't want to rush negotiations, because if the insurance company gets the sense that this lawyer is broke, he doesn't have any money, he's rushing this case, he's just trying to make this thing go fast, the insurance company is going to know that, and they're going to pull back money. They're not going to want to give you a higher offer if they get the sense that this lawyer on the other side is just trying to rush this case. So it's very important that there's a patience in the negotiation process. It's very important that you could pull past jury verdicts that are similar to this case. You could show it to the insurance company. Hey, look at this case right here that was settled in a courtroom. Our case is very similar, or it's not even as bad as this, and they got this, but you're offering this. You go back and forth during these negotiations. You find out, why are you offering this? Okay, you're reducing the medical bills, but our medical bills are still due and owing. And you go back and forth with all this conversation around negotiations, hoping that you can get to a settlement number that the client agrees with. Okay, if you can't do that, then you have to file a lawsuit and begin the whole entire process of filing a lawsuit, going to depositions, answering discovery, maybe one day even going to trial for the case. Not all cases are like that. A lot of cases are settled. So if you do get an offer that you can work with, the next step would be to go back to all of the medical providers and try to reduce the medical bills as much as possible. So let's say that you have $20,000 in medical bills and the insurance company is offering $25,000 settlement. You could then go back to all the medical providers and say, hey, medical providers, we want you to take $10,000 for these bills instead of $20,000 for these bills, Now, all of a sudden, you go from a $5,000 profit to $15,000 profit because you were able to reduce the medical bills. In that realm, it does take longer, usually for like hospitals, primary care doctors, providers that are not set up with the letter of protection that the lawyer was able to set you up with. They usually take a little bit longer to work out medical reductions. So that's a process too. And in the same vein, like I was saying about the insurance company, you don't want to rush this thing. You want to let everyone know that you want the best for your client, not the fastest way to get a settlement. So you'll have to go back and forth with some of the medical providers on this case. But ultimately, you get all the medical reductions in, and then you let your client know, okay, this is what you're looking at for your settlement. And then you have the auto insurance company send the checks to the law firm. Sometimes you could have the insurance company cut individual checks for all the medical providers, but then you're also showing your hand to the insurance company. Hey, look what the reductions I was able to get. I don't like doing that. I like to just get one check in for our client and the law firm, and then we can do all the reductions, and then we'll cut checks from the law office to get this provider a check, this provider a check, and then you walk away with your own personal injury settlement. Okay, so that's A to Z of how the entire process would work. And a very common question that I get is, well, how long does this take? And it's like, you just heard everything that I said about this case. It is intrinsically tied to your specific case. How long did you treat for? If you only had, a month or two of chiro and then your case was done, your case is going to go faster. If you've had to go all the way to injections or get a surgical recommendation, your case is going to take a lot longer than someone that only had a couple months of chiro. So first you want to get the medical development part of it done. Then you want to request the records and bills, a window that you don't have full clarity in either, because some providers, like I said, take a little bit longer to get all those records and bills in. And then if you need to correct anything, and then the negotiation process. Some insurance companies are ready to negotiate. They'll be a little bit better with their offer. Others, you got to call them. It's like, hey, come on, let's talk about this case. Let's get it settled here. If you can't get it settled, like I said, you'd have to file a lawsuit, and that's, much longer process. But then it's, okay, now let's do the reductions. That takes time. And then let's get the checks in. Let's go through the accounting process, cut their check, be able to get it set up for the client, and we're done. So, on an average, you're probably looking at like 6 months to 18 months, depending on how much medical treatment that you get, sometimes less, sometimes more. If you have to file a lawsuit and it goes all the way to trial, you could be waiting 2 to 3, more than 3 years for your case to finally be resolved. It's just a very big sliding scale. And of course, if you have a good law firm, they will always let you know along the way, hey, this is what the offer is on the table now. If you want to take this, we could be done with this. Or if you want to keep on going and keep on trying, we may be able to get more money, but it's going to take us more time. So that's the A to Z of how does the process work with a car accident case. If you have any questions, you could leave a comment below. We will do everything possible to answer every single one of those questions that are put below. And if you want to find out if you have a case, you can go to our website, texascaraccidents.com, and answer 5 questions to see if you have a case, and one of our friendly experts in simplifying Texas car accidents will be there for you.